This is my weekly value enrichment series for UPSC answers and essays. Like every week, I bring before you today once again 3 data points, 2 concepts, and 1 set of principles. And today, this episode will be revolving around the justice system of our country. Judicial reforms or overall issues within the judiciary have been in news of recently, and therefore today's episode has been dedicated to the justice system of our country. I hope you will find these inputs valuable for your answer writing as well as essays. I will be sharing a note also in the description box shortly, so you can download the note so that you can add these points in your answers and essays. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with the first segment of today's session, which is 3 data points. The first set of data is regarding the pending cases in India. तारीख पे तारीख मिलती है मिलॉर्ड लेकिन इंसाफ नहीं मिलता is a very famous dialogue of one of the yesteryear movies of Bollywood starring Sunny Deol. This problem has been, Achilles heel of a judicial system. It takes inordinately long time to actually get disputes redressed in our judiciary. And consequently, we have a huge pendency riddle system in our country. According to latest data that has been given before the Rajya Sabha in the last session of the Parliament, there are 62,000 cases that are pending before our Supreme Court, over 51 lakh cases pending before our different high courts, and almost 3.5 crores cases pending before our lower judiciary. If you add up all of these, it comes to close to 3.97 crores. So almost like 4 crores cases are pending in our judicial system, majoritarily in our lower judiciary. So that's a huge number that we really need to think about as to how we can dispose of these cases. The government and the judicial system is seized of this issue. Several measures have been taken and the rate has improved over the years. But still, the situation is far from satisfactory. We really need to pull up our socks so that justice can be delivered in time. A very important reason why we have this particular issue is the mismatch in the number of judges to our population. If you see our judges to population ratio, it is 20 per million population. Okay? 20 judges for million Indians. That is the ratio that we have, and this is far from ideal. Okay? We aspire to have around 50 judges per million population so that the system can work smoothly. So we can see clearly that the number of judges that we have in the system are quite inadequate considering the population of the country. And this is all the more apparent when we compare this figure with other developed countries. Say in case of USA, the number of judges are 107. In case of Canada, the number of judges are 75. Australia, it is 41. So this really shows that we really need to increase the number of judges in the system. There are a lot of appointments that are pending, especially in lower judiciary. So 20% of the posts in lower judiciary currently are vacant, and we really need to speed that up, and the judiciary needs to conduct the right sort of exams and get those posts filled. So that is one issue. Another thing that can be done to resolve this problem is increase the retirement age of Supreme Court and High Court judges. As you all know, our Supreme Court judges retire at the age of 65, whereas the High Court judges, they retire at the age of 62. Now, if you compare internationally, judges in America, for example, American Supreme Court, they are appointed for life. So are judges in Greece. So there is this international practice of appointing judges for life or at least till 70, 75 years in several countries. So these judges who have that accumulated wisdom of several decades, they, with their physical health permitting, can serve for not many years as compared to at the age that they are retiring currently. Especially this difference between the judges retiring at 62 and Supreme Court judges retiring at 65, High Court judges at 62 and Supreme Court judges at 65. This difference does not have any logic. At least we can increase the High Court retirement age to 65, make it at par with Supreme Court. This will also give a sense of security to the High Court judges, and a lot of critics who say that because of this gap between High Court retirement age and Supreme Court retirement age, a lot of judges then have to be in good books of their Supreme Court seniors. That will not be the case, and they can very well serve in the High Court at the same till the same age as a Supreme Court judge. So these two solutions can be thought of in this context. Third data point is regarding government as a litigant. In all of these pending cases in our country, the majority of the cases belong to several different ministries and departments of the government. This is what has been said by the Ministry of Law and Justice. As many as 46% cases in our country are related to different departments and ministries of the government. Now here there is not complete clarity whether this means the complete state or government departments. Nevertheless, 46% is a very, very massive number of cases that the governments that involves the government of India. Our Prime Minister has time and again spoken about this, and we have tried to draft a new litigation policy also. That is in process. We have a policy in 2010 which had the goal of making government as a model litigant. Okay, the model litigant that the government should be has not thus far evolved. We really need to work on it. Currently, we are, or the government appears to be, a compulsive litigant instead of a model litigant. There is a tendency in bureaucracy to push the can down the road. Instead of taking decisions, bureaucrats prefer to take the issue to the judiciary and riddle the system with pendencies, and the issue can then be taken care of by subsequent appointees in that particular post. So this issue needs to change. Bureaucrats must be given the confidence, the assurity that whatever decisions they take in good faith, they will not be hounded for it. And that way, a lot of litigation can be reduced that comes from the government side. Okay. So these are the three data sets regarding pending cases, judges to population ratio, and the government as a litigant. Okay. Now let us go to the second segment of today's session, where we will be discussing two concepts. The first concept that I wish to present before you is that of enforcement of contracts. Now, what is this idea of enforcement of contracts? Guys, this is an important indicator in the World Bank's ease of doing business ranking. The World Bank ranks economies across the world on 10 parameters, and one of them is enforcement of contract. Basically, it measures time and cost for resolving a commercial dispute through a local first instance court. As in, if there is some dispute between two parties regarding some contract that they have entered into, they go to a local first instance court to resolve that dispute. And how long does it take and how much does it cost is basically measured in this particular dimension of ease of doing business, that is enforcement of contract. Okay. It also sees the quality of judicial processes that a country's judiciary implements so that there can be ease of enforcement of contract also. Now, clearly you can see that judiciary is not just important for your political and social goals. It is also very, very crucial for a country's economic goals. Now let us see, where does India basically stand in this context? Okay. Although India's rank has improved tremendously by leaps and bounds, in fact, in ease of doing business ranking, the one area where we are performing very poorly is enforcement of contracts. We are ranked as low as 163 out of 190 countries when it comes to enforcement of contract. Okay. Why is that so? Guys, because it takes, according to this year's economic survey, 1445 days, okay, or 1445 days to enforce a contract in our judicial system. So something as simple as a basic contract or maybe even a check, if that gets bounced, then it takes as long as 1445 days to get it enforced. The cost of litigation in this process, even if you win the case, the cost of litigation in that process is around 30% of the total value of the contract. Okay? Even if you're winning the case after this long delay, you will be ending up spending 30% of the contract value of that particular contract. Okay? So that's a huge amount that one has to spend in the process. Why is it so? Why does it say it takes so long, and why is it so costly to have contracts enforced in a country? Well, the reasons are very obvious: lack of infrastructure, lack of adequate and competent judges, lack of use of technology, tendency to use litigation. All of these multiple factors have led to this problem where enforcement of contracts is very difficult in our country. Here also, the government has taken certain steps and things are marginally improving, but the pace is not as satisfying as we would like it to be. So commercial divisions have been established. The government is promoting ADR, alternative dispute resolution systems. The government has come out with a new bill also in this context. We have appointed several tribunals so that parties don't have to go to the judiciary. They can get their issue resolved in a cheap, quick, and easy manner before the tribunals. And modern court management and digitization processes are being brought into a judiciary so that this time and cost could be reduced. So this was the concept, guys, regarding enforcement of contract. Now let me come to the second concept in this segment, which is that of open prisons. Okay. Before I tell you what are open prisons, let me briefly apprise you about the status of the issues regarding prisons in the country. According to the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative (CHRI), there is a huge, you can say, occupancy related problem in our prisons. The average occupancy, as in the number of people to the capacity in a prison, okay, the average occupancy in a prison is 118.5%. So to keep it simple, if a prison has the capacity of 100 inmates, there are, statistically speaking, 118.5 prisoners over there. Okay. As many as 8 states in a country have this occupancy ratio above 150%, including our own state of Maharashtra. So there is a huge problem regarding the density of prisoners in the prisons. Now, in these times like COVID, one can imagine the kind of havoc it can wreak, and we had seen certain challenges coming about in some of our well-known prisons. As many as 69% of these prisoners are under trials. That is, they are not convicts. They are not able to get bail for various structural reasons, for financial aspects, their lack of privilege. Many factors are responsible for that. And that is why 69% of our prisoners turn out to be under trials who are not convict. They are there in the jail for reasons that are beyond their control. This naturally leads to a huge cost for the state. Maintaining the prisons, their upkeep, keeping the prisoners in good condition, all of this naturally is a huge drain on the exchequer, which can be utilized elsewhere. It also creates challenges of rehabilitation of individuals. Just imagine an under trial who spends a long time in the jail. He is freed by the judiciary later on, after spending several months, maybe years in the jail. When he comes out, he finds it very difficult to get integrated back into the society. And that is not the goal of our prison system. Okay? Our prison system, or our, you can say, criminal justice system, is inclined more towards reformation rather than retribution. But the way our prisons are being managed, this reformation or integration is creating or is becoming more difficult. So what can be done in this context? Here, open prisons can help. These are prisons without walls, bars, and locks. These jails do not confine the inmates. They require them, in fact, to earn their living, to support their families and live with their families inside the jail. So this is not a jail as we imagine it to be with lockups. It is in fact an open jail where the inmates can live with their family, go out to work and come back. So that is the concept of open jail. UN's Mandela rules define it as a system that relies on self-discipline of inmates. Instead of keeping them incarcerated, it trusts the prisoners, relies on their self-discipline, and provides the conditions that are most favorable to their rehabilitation. But this is again only for some selected prisoners. Those prisoners who have shown good behavior, they can then be transferred to open prisons, and such open prisons allow them the opportunity to work and also live with their family. Okay? So this enables a much better rehabilitation of the prisoner as compared to keeping him incarcerated in a jail for a very, very long time. This is nothing but based on Gandhian principles or Gandhian ideas. Mahatma Gandhi always taught that we should hate the sin and not the sinner. He trusted the innate goodness of man, and this system of open prison basically relies on this. In India also, we've had several experiments of open prisons, and this is a very important step in prison reform as well as humanizing of the prison system. Let us see its status in our country. In India, we have 67 such prisons across 17 states, and as many as 29 of these are in Rajasthan itself. Rajasthan is considered as a pioneer when it comes to open prisons. Here, convicts who have served 5 years, remember only convicts, not under trials. Convicts who have served 5 years and have shown good conduct, they can be transferred to open prisons. These prisoners stay in these open prisons where there are no there is no incarceration, and they can stay there with their family. In the daytime, they can go out, work, earn their living, and in the process get integrated back into the society. By living with their family, they get emotional and social support. Okay, and that definitely helps the prisoner to overcome the guilt that he might be having because of the crime that he had committed, and also meaningfully contribute back to the society. It also helps to break the inhibitions of the prisoner of getting back into the society. Okay, whether he will be accepted or welcomed, this is a very major dilemma that every prisoner faces when he comes out. But if he is part of an open prison, then he is much more confident of being, a contributing member towards the society. It also helps the society. It builds more openness in the society towards the prisoners and gives a welcoming attitude towards such people who are serving in the open prisons. Supreme Court has realized the importance of this and has time and again, told the states that they should expand the capacity of their open prisons and even use the existing capacity. A lot of states, although they have the open prisons, but they don't use it to the fullest capacity. 30% of these seats in such open prisons across India remain vacant, and these certainly can be used and their capacity is expanded, as Supreme Court has recently directed several of the states. So this was the second concept, guys, open prisons, that can be used as a value addition related point. Now let us come to the third and last segment of today's session, where I will be sharing with you some important principles that World Bank has given for judicial reforms. Improving the judicial system or its working is very, very crucial for any country, including ours also, of course. And the World Bank gives certain important principles that need to be focused on to make the judiciary efficient and effective. These principles, if implemented in toto, can ensure the independence of the judiciary, which is very crucial for any democracy and also is a very important, you can say, principle or feature of our constitution. So let us see what are some of these principles that World Bank suggests for judicial reforms. The first principle is independence. The independence of the judiciary must be ensured such that there is no influence of the government in the functioning or acting of the judiciary. People look towards judiciary with great hope as an institution that will ensure that their rights are not violated. But if there is lack of independence in the judiciary, then people lose hope, the institution's credibility is lost, and consequently, there is no sense of justice in that particular society. And therefore, ensuring the independence is the foremost goal of any form of judicial reform. Second is judicial training. To ensure this judicial independence, there needs to be appropriate training of the judges. Training in terms of acquisition of right knowledge, skills, as well as attitudes. The World Bank says the attitude of the judges towards integrity and impartiality are very, very crucial to make the judicial system effective. And therefore, the judicial training must incorporate all of these factors so that the judges are rightly equipped to deal with the responsibility that they have on their shoulders. The third principle is court administration and case management. Like any profession, the judicial system also requires a lot of management expertise. This branch of the functioning of judicial system is called as court administration and case management. Several countries, most notably Australia, have made great progress in this department of judicial system, that is court administration and case management. Designing the workflows, integrating of technology, bringing in more efficient procedures, all of these have been worked on, and the judicial system has been made more efficient in these countries, Australia being the most noteworthy. Judicial reforms must not lose sight of this and also focus on court administration and case management. In India too, we are working on these areas. We have increased the digitization of processes. We now have e-filing of cases also, and all of these things are taking us in this direction. China has recently, in fact, even integrated artificial intelligence in their judicial system, okay? So that in cases where similar circumstances are there, they could be easily identified and a judgment can be given using artificial intelligence. That's the level to which China is integrating technology in its judicial system. The fourth principle is fighting corruption. Corruption undermines judiciary's independence and its accountability. It tears asunder the credibility of the institution. And therefore, fighting corruption in the judiciary is very, very crucial, perhaps more crucial than fighting corruption in any other wing of the government. And hence, the World Bank's principles include fighting corruption within the judiciary as an important reform agenda. Next is appointment of judges. The appointment of judges, World Bank says, must be such that there is no influence of the government. Now, appointment here not just means the initial appointment, it also means appointment on higher posts, transfers, as well as removals. In all of these processes, the credibility of the institution must not be compromised. There should not be any adverse influence from the government side in the functioning of these judicial processes. Because if government influence exists, then the independence of the judiciary will be compromised, which is not in the interest of the functioning of a country or its democracy. Next principle is criminal justice reform. Criminal justice has the attention of every citizen like no other aspect of judicial functioning. When a criminal goes scot-free in the eyes of the public, then it really creates a credibility crisis for the judiciary. People who have suffered at the hands of those criminals, they never get a sense of closure. And lack of closure often leads to different types of social unrest and movements. And hence it is very crucial that criminal justice gets the due attention that it merits. Next principle is accountability of government. Government of the day should not get away with any kind of excesses or violations of basic constitutional principles, laws, and rights of the citizens. This responsibility rests on the judiciary. Judiciary should not falter when it comes to calling the government to account. And this is in fact the essence of the functioning of judiciary, the most important task of the judiciary. And hence, World Bank says that enough, you can say, powers and means must be given to the judiciary so that they are able to enforce accountability of the government. Lastly, ADR, or alternate dispute resolutions. Alternate dispute resolution is a system or mechanism in which litigants can avoid the conventional judicial system and approach other platforms where their disputes can be redressed. Arbitration, mediation, conciliation. These are the three different types of alternate dispute resolution where in a quick, cheap, and simple way, people can get their disputes redressed. We have a special act for arbitration, alternate dispute resolution, and the government of India, in fact, has proposed a new bill. It wants to make New Delhi an internationally famous hub for arbitration. If arbitration and such other means become successful, then cases will not go to the judiciary and they can be settled outside of the court in these different kind of platforms. That will save a lot of money to the litigants. It will save a lot of burden to the judiciary and will work wonders for the economy also. And hence, it's very important that we strengthen our alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. And for that, as I mentioned, the government has proposed a bill also. So these are the reforms or the principles of judicial reforms that World Bank has proposed, guys. So this was my session today of 321 for you all. Do let me know in the comment box below how you found this session, and feel free to suggest any other things that you would like me to cover in the course of the 321 series. Thank you very much.